On this episode of Lapeef, Let's Talk.
That's all she talk about is the past. Hey, Amir, I don't know if you're familiar with our culture, but what happens a lot of times is these Black Panther meetings take place, and you got people leading like Dr. Umar Johnson and those type of guys.
I've
And
been
what
to Nation of
happens is,
Islam meeting.
yeah, and so similarly, what you'll find is that people just whine and complain.
If you guys are just tuning in, welcome to Lapeef Let's Talk. Make sure you guys take a moment right now to get these likes up. Also, while you at it, subscribe to the channel. Moving on to our second topic, which is why are so many women afraid of change? Why are so many women afraid of change? I appreciate you guys joining us tonight, the two guests, Nina and Amira, because we definitely are getting different perspectives, especially from a different culture. So this is going to be a good topic. We often discuss things surrounding this topic. So I'm looking forward to it. The topic again is why are so many women afraid of change? In you guys' culture, do you feel like women are afraid of change? Start with you, Nina. Like, is that a big issue at all?
No, it's constantly happening. Change is happening every day, I would say.
Okay.
Add some more context, JR. What you mean by change?
Change meaning that toxic behavior, being loud and disrespectful towards men and to themselves, masculine energy. So those are just some of the things that I'm referring to when I say change. So here we have an issue where we feel like women have a problem holding themselves accountable or allowing other people to hold them accountable, not recognizing their mistakes. They're trying to go back and forth with you. They are who they are, and they're going to continue to be who they are, and they're not going to listen to anybody. So do you guys experience that? Are women afraid of change?
We're gonna bring it back to you, Nina.
Okay,
The
Amira.
additional.
Right. In my culture, the women want change, but change does not come easily, and the men prefer to keep it traditional. So it's more of a tug of war in my culture. Women want to have more freedom. They want to be able to speak up and speak out more. And I think the problem is the men, they see the Western women and they don't want to see the Eastern women turn into the Western women. No offense to Western women, but the liberation that the Western world has seen for females has brought a lot of issues that haven't been resolved yet. And they only seem to be getting worse in the West. And the East is trying to avoid having to go through what the West is through right now.
Can you kind of break down the East and West? Because I'm not familiar with that.
The Western world will be Britain, I guess you can say Europe, the North American region, South American region, and all of the Caribbean. That's still considered the Western world.
JR, think of it on places with heavy European influence and things like that. Like,
I think JR. No, he's just
in the Eastern world will be
defining it for the
considered
audience.
the Eastern world will be considered Asia, Middle East, India, and the Mediterranean.
There you go.
Come on, Matt.
Yeah. So
What do you think are those
so that's Eastern versus Western.
some of those unresolved issues that a lot of the Eastern men don't want to subject themselves to as far as the Western women that they see?
Women being unhappy. So it's a huge now I know maybe a lot of people will disagree with me when I say this, but Western women are very unhappy. No matter how they may act like they're happy, they're really not happy. And Eastern men see it. They can see Western women. They can see how unhappy they are with they got all their liberation and so on, but they're very unhappy. And if you look at Eastern women, no matter how oppressed you may think they are, they are really happy with their families. They're happy in their homes, doing what we normally do. Yeah, there's always going to be problems. There are pros and cons of each lifestyle, but in general, Eastern women are happier. We have happier attitudes. We're happier at home. We tend to wear more flowy dresses and smile, and we tend to be, I don't know, just happier women. And I think Eastern men, they are afraid to see Eastern women turn into Western women, turning into this person who's like, I got to go to work in the morning. I'm tired. I don't want to come home and cook for you. I've been out working all day too. I don't want to deal with those kids. I don't know. Send them to daycare. They don't want to deal with having the woman turn into that. They want to have that woman happy to say, I don't want my kids to go to daycare. I want to keep them at home.
Do you know the average that in your country the men make?
I don't, but it depends on a lot of things. We tend to be rather well-to-do. Is that how you say it? Well-to-do?
Right.
We tend to be rather wealthy.
They make more money than men over here. So I think that's also important too, because wealth will determine a lot of things too. So women, a lot of us have to work because our men are not making just enough money to take care of the entire family. So a lot of us are forced to work. So I think that needs to also kind of be said. Your men are able to have 4 wives because they financially can take care of all of them and they don't have to work, which in essence would make the women a lot happier because they don't have stress of having to work and take care of home and children as well.
Well, I wanted to bring up the point that in America, before women started working, men could take care of their family on one salary. Men were able to work as a mechanic or work in just, a 9-to-5 job and was able to provide for his family, his wife, and 2 children. Yeah. Now, ever since women joined the workforce, things have been completely skewed. And now it's harder for just one person to bring home enough money. So I don't know if that's putting the chicken before the egg.
I'll respond to that because also economics and housing is also going completely up. So if you look at the average man that's making $40K, do you think he could take care of a wife and 3 kids on $40K?
Well, of course not.
Right.
So America
is an inflation over here, obviously. So they're not. So they could before when bread was a quarter. So I think that we need to talk about that too. Women are having to work and be in the workforce. Majority of us don't want to, but we have to.
I want to bring up something. There is this push for women to say they want equal pay, equal. In fact, a lot of women want to earn more than the men. So I don't understand why this push for equal pay and I want to make more and I want to make equal to a man, but you still want a man that's going to be able to take care of you and without you having to work.
Well, those are two different.
I'm confused about that push from the women. And
that's 2 different issues. So first, I wanted to make sure that we talk about what you were saying, that the women don't have to work because financially the men are well off. You guys make more money over there. So we don't here. So that's within itself. So let's not forget about that particular issue. So now that I think that we agree on that, and like you said, we can't raise a family off 40K. So if I'm making 40K, that's 80K, that's going to bring more to the family. So I think we can agree on that. So now let's move over to your next question.
Wait. So
okay, I'm sorry. Okay.
So, the thing about America is that in terms of like modern day America, it's not about keeping family values and keeping culture and tradition and doing all these things. It is about capitalism. It's about getting as many people to work for as low of wages as possible, getting as many people to buy as much stuff as they can. And with this and marketing and the way things are just pushed, it's the point. So like in your culture, the point is keeping that family structure solid, making sure, that people, your person meets your dad and all this stuff to keep that integrity in your culture up. But like in American culture, that's not the goal. Like, I don't even think in general, the government doesn't care about that at all. The whole thing is making sure people are working, making sure people are buying, and making sure people that are spending and making money. So like with that being the thing, how do you think that like, do you still think, because I've heard you mention like with women joining the workforce, it kind of shifted. Do you think that America as a corporation, do you think that America has the best interests of people in mind, where they're thinking about family structure and community and culture, or do you think they're just trying to make money?
Well, that's not the government's job, and America as a corporation has nothing to do with family structures. Usually, that business and family structures is different. I wanted to bring up something though, just really quickly. You guys were saying, God, I almost missed my point. God, you guys made me forget it. Give me a second. All right. So my family came here with nothing, right? We came to this country. We worked, well, the men in my family rather, they worked these minimum wage jobs for years until they were able to save enough to start the business that we made. And now I'm not going to go into detail of my finances, but we're doing well. I see Americans that are born here, born with all this opportunity, not taking advantage, and rather not thinking outside of the box and thinking about all these businesses that can be opened, all these opportunities that this country has given you. But instead thinking, well, I have this minimum wage job that I'm making $40,000 a year. I can't afford a family. But it's like, you shouldn't have a family before you're able to get your finances in order. So I just wonder, why don't Americans take more advantage of this and think outside of that minimum wage job and that $40,000 and think more? Is the word entrepreneuristic? I don't know. You guys understand what I'm saying? Like entrepreneur style.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
I think, and it goes back to what we were kind of talking about with the first question, when you asked about like which one had more success in terms of like traditional ways of certain cultures, like getting married versus more American ways. That cultural foundation, because my dad is the same way. He's like, there is no excuse. He says, if you can't make it in America, you can't make it anywhere, basically. So I get that mindset completely. I just think that it's easy to say that when you don't understand the entire framework that has people in the position that they're in. So like, and it's not an excuse, it's just the reality. So because I'm trying to tell you, Amira, I get what you're saying, because absolutely, like, my dad is the same. In fact, when you were talking, I was like, Daddy, like, I literally like, I have heard.
Doctor, what did I tell you? What did I tell you?
I've heard things before, but it's just that things are so much different, and I think that it's hard for people who grew up with that cultural background to even fathom anything outside of that. It's just not the same at all. It's totally different.
You're talking about work ethic and saving?
Everything. The whole, like she mentioned, why would you even be trying to do this if you can't?
Yeah, I mean, why would you try to start a family if you don't have money? I don't understand that either.
No, I mean, I don't personally understand it either. But
so what's your argument?
My argument is that clearly there are a ton of people who are in poverty that have families. And if there was, and I'm not saying that that's exclusive to America. I mean, there's a lot of people in poverty around the world that have families. But I just think that we have to be careful when we're thinking about applying one thing to everybody. Everybody just isn't the same.
You don't think that that's a part of the victim Olympics that we running the fastest?
No, it's not part of the victim Olympics. It's more so that the way that we can overcome these things, and I'm speaking specifically for Black people, the way that people in America that are Black can overcome these things is by recognizing them, first of all, and then working towards building a social.
You don't think that we know that we don't have? You don't think that we know that we don't have enough money to start a family and we do it anyway?
Yes, people do that, but I'm saying the mindset. I don't think it's not that I get it. The reality is people don't want to be broke, whatever. But I'm saying there is a different mindset. Like for me personally, there is no getting pregnant before you're married. There is none. Like I have held on to that piece of my dad's side of the family. I can't get pregnant before I'm married. That is me, though. Everybody is not exactly the same.
You don't think everybody got a brain and they understand that if they don't have money, they won't be able to take care of their families? I don't really understand. This is like,
can I say something?
hey, have at it. I moved my mic out of the way.
We're gonna go to Courtney.
Right.
Hold on, we're gonna go to
Well, I have
Courtney
a
first,
question
and
for
then we'll go to Amira.
Why did your family come here?
My family came here because in Russia there was a lot of things going on, a lot of fighting.
So America is safe to you.
Right.
Okay. And you guys had no other family here that built up while you guys are waiting. Y'all just came. I do hear a lot of immigrants that come here. Pick myself up from the bootstrap mentality. So, I mean, I do believe a lot of Americans tend to be lazy because we live in abundance. Everybody wants to be here.
Thank you.
Everybody around the world wants to be in America. I mean, it's the best country ever. I definitely agree with that. But our mentalities are different. You come from Russia, which, like I said, you're fighting. So this was peace. We don't have those issues. So we can relax.
So the mindset is different.
Our mindset is different. We can chill.
Well, I wanted
felt
to.
like I was fighting in my neighborhood. I was in grind mode. I don't know where y'all was.
You comparing Detroit to Russia?
Right, exactly.
I am.
You're literally proving.
If you've ever been a little kid raised across from the crack house and seen the raid vans pulling up and seen a random bullet, and then you came home in the middle of after a party and you seen a crackhead coming out your window. Yeah, I'm gonna compare parts. I'm gonna compare the red zone.
Anton,
I really am.
Point. You are right now proving the point of American what's the word I'm looking for? You're proving the point because you're comparing your life in Detroit to certain other countries where it's just not the same. Because
but you're missing her point. Her point is that people come from very difficult situations and backgrounds, and then some of us make excuses as to why we can't make a difference, and then others of us actually capitalize on the opportunity that's in front of us instead of blaming everybody else as to why they can't get ahead. And so that's the whole point of the conversation, not trying to compare backgrounds. And I identify with that because I was in a space where my father said, hey, we not going to be like this forever, and I'm going to make the sacrifice in order to ensure that my family long-term can be successful. And as a result, me and my brothers are the beneficiaries of it. And we also hold on to that work ethic as a result of our mindset, and that we don't believe in making excuses. We only believe in results. And so we don't run the victim Olympics. We take responsibility and ownership of whatever the situation is, and we make the best of it.
You're speaking from a place of privilege. Everybody doesn't even have a father. Like, you don't understand your level of privilege, Anton. You seem to be overlooking that. That's the part that I think is problematic. Because
you do have a father, and you still make excuses as to why
I don't make excuses for myself. I'm not making an excuse for me. I'm successful.
So I'm making excuses for everybody else?
No, I'm not making excuses for everybody else. I'm extending some form of understanding that everybody, and I'm not saying I grew up in the most, privileged whatever, but I'm making what I'm saying is that everyone does not grow up the same. So I'm not going to sit up and say, just because I did it, you can't. Like, it's just insensitive to me, considering the fact that different people go through different things.
No, your mentality is the reason. Your mentality is the reason that the Black community is in the space that it's in. They continue to lean on the mentality that you have, and that there's always a reason and excuse as to why people can't do what they do. And as a result, we always gonna be running in last place because the majority of the people echo what you think, instead of taking advantage of the mindset that other people that we see. We got all of this technology. We can communicate with other people. We got a mirror on the panel right now telling her story. We got a mirror on the panel telling her story right now of what success looks like, and taking responsibility, owning it. Even if you have to work a minimum wage job, you do it until you can do something better. But ultimately, don't make excuses. Take ownership of your situation, make the best of it, and stop blaming other people for your problems. It's that simple. But then when we have other people that make excuses for people It's easy for the weak ones to ultimately lean on that in order to justify their behavior. But we saying there ain't no more excuses. Destroy, rebuild, that's dead. We not letting people get away with that junk no more. And I appreciate people like Amira coming on a platform with a different perspective that comes from a different culture that ultimately echo the same mentality that I have, and that there is no such thing as an excuse. If you want to have kids, if you want to have a family, if you got a dick, then take the responsibility of the carnage that you leave as a result of it, or own the success that comes with being responsible for how you impact other people. And your words, in my opinion, impact people in a negative way because it gives them more excuses as to why they can do what they want to do without any accountability and only compassion that comes along with it. It's silly.
No. So the fact that I recognize that everyone's not the same is me
And then I'm coming
providing a crutch. Like, I don't see how that's the same thing. Just because I know that even statistically, if you're raised in a 2-parent household, it's different than a 1-parent household. If you're raised in a certain socioeconomic status, it's different than another one. Just because I know these facts, that means that I'm providing some kind of excuse. That, I mean, you're trying to turn a blind eye to the real world in the country that we live in. You literally just try to compare Detroit to a war-torn Russia. That people,
if war-torn Russia is worse and they came over and made a better situation as a result of it, that's even more speaking to my point as to why you shouldn't have an excuse if you was born in this country.
That's what.
Well, I know Nina needs to speak, but let me just say this: it's different cultures around the entire world. But to say Russia, just because she came from Russia, and that doesn't mean her whole culture in Russia is like that. There's trash people over there. There's baby mamas over there. There's crackheads over there. There's crackheads every single way around the world.
It's racism. It's mostly racism.
Right. There you go. So we all have these core issues every single where. We all have people that are able to pull up their boots from the bootstrap or whatever and make it. That's everywhere. A lot of people are going to get lost. That's everywhere. I just don't want this to be a conversation where we talk about a particular culture and they're getting it all right and we're all wrong. Because even if they believe in something, if you go over there, everybody's not living that way.
Yeah,
like,
but
we can't be blind to say we can't be.
The mindset of people that are successful, the point that I'm making is
that
it's
a mind frame. It's a state. Everybody, if you're going to be successful, you have to have these particular characteristics. Yep. It's not necessarily culture based. It's a mind frame.
I agree with you, Courtney, but this is my point, is that the mindset behind how people become successful extends beyond culture. It extends across cultures. But for some reason, I find it often in people that have the mentality that Kay has, they refuse to step outside of their own way in order to adopt the same philosophies and principles that does extend across cultures. And they lean on this whole thing of black, or this, or America, and comparing things instead of looking for where the benefit is, learning from where people have done it successful, and then implementing that instead of trying to lean on this crutch and enabling people to continue to be worse off than they are. And this is what you see. It's cyclical. Mm-hmm. It's going to continue to repeat itself because we don't live 1,000 years. We don't learn from our mistakes. And by the time we figure it out, it's too late because the next generation is saying, I'm not rocking with that. You lived your life. I'm living my life. And it's important for us to step outside of what we've normalized and realize that there is a different way, and it does not come as a result of leaning on a crutch and using other people as an example as to why we can't become what we need to become.
It's as not me creating a crutch. It's not me doing that. I am not saying like everybody just do whatever you want. I'm not saying that. I'm saying that reality is reality. And in order for us to, like I said earlier, build the social infrastructure, to do the things that need to be done to create a better world for us in the next generation and the next generation, we have to recognize the situation that we're in. You can live in La La Land, Anton, and think that every single person grew up with these two parents that were telling them the game and doing all these.
You do realize that.
Okay, but
hold on, JR.
It's just not the
I'm just trying to figure out how's that helping us, Kay.
Hold on, JR.
You know, how's that helping us by saying
you
that?
do realize that I've spent over $1 million documented in communities helping other people, that I volunteer regularly, that I'm active, that I'm coaching people, that I'm having conversations. Hold on. That I'm having conversations every single day to help improve and play a role in the success of other people. So how can you say in any way, shape, or form, knowing what you know about me, because you know me in real life, how can you say in any way, shape, or form that I'm living in la la land when I'm one of the very ones that's doing the work on the ground and socially? How can you even say that out of your mouth?
Because you also know me in real life, and the fact that you're trying to say that I'm propagating something that's the detriment to the Black community, like, what are we doing here? You know that that's not true.
I'm not even gonna do this. Go ahead, JR.
Don't do it.
All right, Nina. No, it's a lot of conversations going on right now, a lot of responses. We'd like to hear your thoughts about what's going on, what's being said, and even if you want to add something new to the conversation.
Well, a lot has been said. Just pick one thing, but kind of going back to what Amira said about, starting a family once you're in the right financial position. I think that we can all agree with that. I know some people definitely have get pregnant unintentionally, and it happens. As far as us and asking for my opinion, and I think that all of us would love to have babies when we're in a great financial state. But a lot of times it doesn't happen. As far as me and my husband, we don't have kids right now because we are waiting to be in the right financial position for it. And we are in the financial position to have kids. However, we chose together, mainly my decision, and he supported it. I wanted to go back to school, finish school, start my career, pursue that career, and then start a family. We are in a great position to have kids right now. However, I just wanted to push, at least on my end, for more. And I wanted to be able to know that I was also providing for our family just as much as the father was. And that's just how we want to raise our kids. But yeah, I do agree. I think anybody can testify to the fact that they would love to have babies under the situation where they have the money for it. A lot of times it does not happen. At least for us, we're working on that and trying to pursue that kind of thought process as well.
Okay. Hey, Courtney, go ahead and take us home with this one. Final thoughts.
Oh, okay. Well, I definitely believe that there's a core thing that we all should predominantly follow, which is, waiting before you have sex till marriage and having kids within that marriage. Shit happens. So now that it's happened, now what? How are we going to fix it? And we don't fix it by trying to look at other cultures. Well, they're being better than us. Well, truth be told, they're having the same exact problems as well. People are people, whether I'm here in Bermuda, wherever, people are people. So I think we just need to bring the focus. Okay, so now, how do we get a culture back here in America? How do we set traditional ways? Because as of right now, there's no tradition here. We just do anything that we want. So we don't have tradition here. So it's hard to speak about other countries and their tradition where we're just all over the place. So let's talk about that. We were biblically based. Now everyone is every single religion. People are atheists and don't believe in it. So how can you tell them to be biblically based and they don't even believe in God? So we don't have a tradition here. And when people come over here, they wow out and want to be like American girls because they think it's so much fun. So I don't even know if we really talked about the topic.
It's okay. That's how that's how a lot of people Let's Talk is. We start on the topic, we get off a little bit, and then we bring it right back, man.
But anyway, I think everyone has their view, and I like hearing everyone's views, and especially people coming from different backgrounds, because we don't hear it, especially in these kind of forums.
I want to ask the ladies something. Based off what was just said, and again, I know we got away from the topic a little bit. Have we learned anything? Have either one of you guys learned anything about the other culture just now in this conversation?
Definitely.
What?
Okay, go ahead.
What did you learn?
As far as Amir's culture, it is very they have stuck to it clearly.
Mhm.
And like I said, they push it a lot more than, of course, America does, because look at me. It's changed, and I'm not the same. That I was not raised the same, and I do not have the same traditions that my ancestors had, of course. And also, America is one of those countries where things just evolve. There is not a specific structure. Things just evolve. That's the way it is here versus where Amira is from. They work really hard to keep it the same. And they work really hard to make sure that there is not a lot of change. And they work really hard to make sure to not reinvent the wheel. As for us,
Go
it's
ahead,
evolving
babe.
every single day.
Then let me tell you what I learned. This is what I learned. I learned that everybody can't come. Everybody not gonna make it over to the promised land. As a matter of fact, it kind of remind me of the story of Moses, where none of the originals, they never made it. Like we gotta cut off. We gotta cut off the cancer. It's too many people that's adopting this narrative that Kay has. And it's a lot of people that think like her. They speak like her. They talk like her. They have these conversations. They the loudest voices in
How
the
do I
room.
think, Anton?
And everybody can't come.
How do I?
Everybody can't come because one bad apple spoils the whole bunch and they get infected. And so we have to. It's the same reason why we got our leaders the way that we are, that we adopt these principles, we adopt these philosophies. We don't have any culture. We don't have anything that we stick to that's actually good. Whenever we see something happen from another culture where people are doing well, all we do is bastardize it, or we condemn it, or we demonize it instead of actually looking to why it makes sense for them to do it. We don't take any of the good things and adopt it, and instead we beat our chests and highlight how we need to be more and more a part of the Victim Olympics. It's the same narrative that we see with Sha'Carri Richardson and everybody that was saying let Sha'Carri run. We don't abide by rules. We don't we don't do anything that's productive as a collective because we have too many people that should be chair movers trying to play a part in being a CEO. They can't do it. Everybody can't come. At some point, y'all gonna have to cut off all of these bad people that's in your echo chamber and say, we not listening to you no more because the results say that you're wrong. The results say that I'm right, and the results say that you're wrong. So that's what I've learned. And I've come to the conclusion as a result of having this conversation is that I'm more reinforced and more determined than ever to weed out the bad apples so that we can get to the place that we need to be. That's what I learned.
Anton, you're not about to just do this to me. What did I say that was like, what am I encouraging people to do that's wrong? What am I encouraging people to do that you think is so wrong?
Run a tape back.
You should be able to remember if it's so bad and detrimental. What is it?
I cut you off. I've cut you off. I've cut you off from my life. I can't continue to adopt this narrative and support this.
I'm
this,
cut
this
off from
mindset.
your life, huh?
Yes.
You don't want to answer the question. I understand.
Can I say something?
Anybody else want to jump in?
Go ahead, Amira.
From what I see, now this is just an outsider looking in between the Kay and Anton. They have a different relationship. I don't know, but from what I see between the two of them, I see that Kay is focusing more on the problem, and Anton is looking more at the solutions instead of focusing on why this or why that. He's more on, yeah, that happened, but this needs to happen in the future. And I think Kay is more kind of like wanting to dissect why this person thinks this way and why that person had this kind of experience. Correct me if I'm wrong, but that's what I see.
Yeah, I think you're right to an extent, because I think that it is just very important to clearly determine the problem to come up with the best solution. I mean, I get hitting the floor running and doing what you need to do. I'm all about that too. But there are nuanced situations, especially in the Black community, where problems have to be addressed and then worked on. So like if we can't even agree about what certain problems are, that's a problem too. I don't think you're wrong, Amira. Like you're saying that I'm trying to bring up a problem, and I am, because you have to. Like, you have to recognize a problem in order to get the right solution. I think a lot of us are very frantic, like, just do this, just do that, stop doing this, blame this person, blame that.
I think Anton is saying that, too much time focusing on the past is hindering the future.
I'm not talking about the past. I'm talking about the present reality.
That's all she talk about is the past. Hey, Amir, I don't know if you're familiar with our culture, but what happens a lot of times is these Black Panther meetings take place, and you got people leading like Dr. Umar Johnson and those type of guys.
I've been to Nation of Islam meeting.
Yeah, and so similarly, what you'll find is that people just whine and complain. And it's the man's fault, and it's the government's fault, and it's the system's fault. And they all say fault. And then you say, hey, can I speak? And they say, hold on, young man. I want to hear him. And this guy that got the biggest black fist, he throws it up too, and they throw it up. And then you say, okay, let him speak. And then I'll say, okay, so listen, this is what the solution is, guys. And they'll say, why is he even here? We don't want solutions. We just want to live in this pity world where everybody feels a certain type of way so we can make each other feel better. And that's generally what happens in our community. There's a lot of rah-rahing. And then when somebody actually poses a solution, there's difficulty accepting or even having a conversation about solutions because they're so used to living in this chamber of the victim Olympics. And so that's my experience of dealing with people like this, but I don't know.
I'm going to go to Courtney. Like you got something to say. Go ahead.
Mm-hmm. Well, I'm not going to just say it's a Black culture. Again, we're talking about people. Every person around the world every culture has this issue. Women have this issue. White men are feeling it. Black men are feeling it. Asian men are feeling it. Mexican men are feeling it. It's women wanting to be on the same level as men and not being traditional. So I definitely want to make sure that we speak about people and not degrade a culture, especially in front of other cultures. Like, I just not. I ain't gonna do that.
Okay. All right. Anybody got anything else? We're gonna move on to the next topic. Anybody else want to close this out? Final words? Kay, you still look like you want to say something. Go ahead.
I do have something to say.
Go ahead.
I just.
Floor is yours.
I just think we just have, and this is all I've been saying, that we just have to understand that different cultures, different situations have different realities. It's not, I don't think it's healthy to just try to say, like what Courtney was saying earlier, oh, this culture is doing this and that's what we need. No, it's not that necessarily. I mean, we are just in a completely different situation, and that's all I'm saying. And given our situation and what it is in this country, certain things need to be done in order to get the best outcomes. I'm not trying to say that we need to sit up and just feel sorry for ourselves and blame everybody, because that's not how I live my life. And Anton, you know that. So I just wanted to clear that up because it's literally not what I'm doing at all. All I'm saying is that we can't try to compare Black Americans to Lebanese people. Like, it's just not the same thing. That's all I'm saying. It's just nowhere near the same. And what works for one group is not necessarily going to work for another group. And this is just reality.
But there's a certain mentality that successful people have, and that's what Anton was saying, that translates to every race, culture, tradition. It doesn't matter.
Yeah,
because the mentality, it's all about family.
That's true.
Yeah, that's what I stated.
Yeah, that's what you were saying. There's a mentality. But the thing is, when we're thinking about Black Americans, it is a much different situation. It's just different. And I agree that there's a mentality that
you see how it's happening, Amir.
I agree that
this is exactly what I just said was happening. She's doing it. She's living it out right. She's playing it out right in front of your face.
I agree that
this is exactly what happens.
I agree that there's a mentality that successful people generally have. I mean, that is the truth. You have the grit, you have the determination, you have these things. You're like, I'm just not going to do it. I'm going to do this, and there's nothing getting in my way. I know that mentality exists, regardless of the culture you're in. I'm just saying
But don't say it. Don't say it. You should leave it there, Kay. You should just leave it there. Don't say, but for Black Americans, it's different. You shouldn't say that.
But Amira, you can't tell me what to say as a Black American woman. You can't tell
Antoine
me.
doesn't agree. Courtney doesn't agree, and they're Black.
Well, I didn't say I didn't agree. I didn't speak on what she's saying. I understand we need both. We need to understand what caused it, but then we also need to focus on the solution. And so I can understand where Anton is saying, it's like, okay, we keep talking about what caused, yes, but I don't even know we understand what caused our issue that's going on in America.
So how can someone buy into a solution when they didn't even think there was a problem to be solved? That's what we see every day. Some people don't even think there is an issue. So in order to get people to buy in, I mean, there's always people who will. And I know that everybody's not going to ever. But in order to get that movement going, people have to buy in and know that there is an issue that needs to be fixed. If people are complacent and they're just like, this is just how it is and that's just whatever and there's no blah, 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 then you can't even talk to them about a solution because they don't even think there's a problem. That's a big deal. And Amira, I'm not trying to say it like this, but you just don't understand because you have a completely different cultural background, which I completely respect, but it's just different. And I get that. So, it's just a difference. And I think that everyone just has to kind of understand that what they think is not what everyone thinks.